everybody, and welcome to Marshall Monday. This week we are on our magical mystery tour. Do you see what I did after last week's Liverpool? We're going to Bristol today, a wonderful place to visit, somewhere I actually lived. I used to live nearby a long time ago, and a really wonderful university. And I'm not going to say much more than that. I'm just going to hand it over to Gary. Gary.
Okay, thank you very much, Mary. Really great to be here, everybody. Thanks so much for hosting us. Just to give you a quick overview of what we're going to do, I'll do a quick sort of 5-minute intro to Bristol. It will have my contact details, but if anybody does want to contact myself or my colleague Jenny, who is also in the chat and has a video on, hello. We are both, our emails are gary.coulter@bristol.ac.uk and jenny.french@bristol.ac.uk. So if anyone wants to contact any of us subsequent to this, please feel free to do so. And then I'll be handing over for obviously the highlight session with my colleague Dave, who's from our innovation and entrepreneurship team. And we also are delighted to welcome student Amy as well, who you'll be hearing from a little bit later. So thank you very much. And without further ado, I will start sharing my screen. And of course, just to say, of course, we'll do the Q&A at the end. So if anybody does have any questions, then please feel free to ask away. Let me just see if this is working. Jenny, is that right? Is that working? Or can you see?
You just need to go to the start slideshow.
Swap.
Yeah.
Hang on. How about that? There we go. I think that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, everybody. So I'll try and get through this in 5 minutes. I won't make it too boring. I'll try and give you some information. As I said, that's my details there and my email address. And obviously, Jenny is just exactly the same. It's just jenny.french@bristol.ac.uk. So Bristol. So like I'm sure a lot of different presentations you've been hearing on these Mondays. Obviously, we are another sort of big city in the UK. Bristol is a very old, traditional Russell Group university, established in 1876. We would consider ourselves, an Ivy League school, what we would call in the UK a Russell Group institution. And we have a lot of sort of prestigious awards over the years. So linked to 13 different Nobel Prize winners is a particularly strong accolade of ours. People like Paul Dirac, who's obviously a world famous physicist. And we are the home currently to about 20,000 undergraduates and 7,000 postgraduate students. So I would say we're a sort of a medium to large sized university. And I suppose the other big sort of factor about Bristol that makes us quite famous is that Winston Churchill was the Chancellor of our university from 1929 all the way through to his death in 1965, and of course is one of our most famous prime ministers. So in terms of our sort of academic ranking and reputation, in the current rankings, which have only just recently come out, the QS World Rankings, we're currently seen as the 9th best university in the UK, the 58th in the world, the 50th best university in the world. Very importantly, we are very highly targeted by the UK's top employer. So we're actually the 4th most targeted university. And we are always, I think for the last few years, we've always been in and around that top 5 spot. We've been as high as 2nd and we've come out as 4th this year. We are a research intensive university. As I'm sure many of you know, research will underpin so much of the work that we do. And we're currently ranked 5th in the UK for research. And that is in the latest REF, Research Excellence Framework, which was done in 2014. And we have a significant number of our subjects are ranked in sort of the world's top 100. So we'd like to feel that we are very much an academic powerhouse. Now, you'll probably have heard from many different universities in these Mondays. And I think one of the things that really sets us apart is that we really are located in what is, an absolutely fantastic city. So we have the academic punch that goes with a Russell Group University, but we're also located in just an absolutely fantastic place to live for students. I'm sure many of you who have been watching the international news will no doubt have seen Bristol in the news in the last few weeks, where obviously we played a major role in obviously many different events. There was the toppling of a statue in the city. And for well, we've been running a Fulbright Summer Institute program for about 8-9 years now. And in the first 6 or 7 years, when I was heavily involved in that, we actually ran one on slavery and Atlantic heritage. And Bristol played a sort of a really sort of big role in working with a lot of American graduates and undergraduate students, and sort of looking at the education and how we adapt as a city. And it's something that the city wrestles with and is working with just as much as sort of the rest of the world. But the city itself as a place to live is just absolutely fantastic. I think in the last 5 years, it's been voted best city to live in the UK 3 times. And that's in a variety of different sort of media forms. One of those was a poll that was done among international and national students in the UK. Another one was in the national press, so in the Times and the Daily Telegraph. And there's been a variety of different ways it was voted that. And it is just a lovely place to live. It's a big city, but it's not London, New York, Sao Paulo big. It's easy to get around. It's beautiful. It's got lots of different parks. It's been named, I think, one of the most colourful cities in the world. And these are, you can see in this slide, a few of the colourful houses on our lovely harbour side. It was the green capital of Europe in 2015, and it's one coolest UK city. You probably shouldn't ask me about that. I'm probably not qualified to contact on the coolness, but look, it's just a wonderful place to live. I myself am from the north of England. You know, I'm a proper through and through northerner, but I moved to Bristol about 7-8 years ago and fell in love with the city, bought a house here and settled here. It's just a lovely, friendly place to live. People are kind, there's so much going on, and people are just really happy in the city. And I think our students are really happy too, and that makes such a huge difference when it comes to that educational experience. So we have 6 major faculties at the university: art, social sciences and law, engineering, science, health sciences and the life sciences. So obviously with the arts, we offer a traditional range of your sort of different arts, humanities, your histories, your Englishes. We have a liberal arts program, music, film, TV, theatre, and innovation, which is a really new and really sort of cutting edge, exciting program that we offer at both undergraduate and postgraduate level. And you'll hear from Dave just a little bit later. All the range of sort of standard business, international relations, politics programs. Engineering is a huge part of Bristol, the city, and also the university. The largest aerospace engineering centre in the whole of Europe is in the north of Bristol, and Bristol is the home of Airbus, Rolls-Royce, Augusta-Westland, GKN, huge engineering firms, which obviously has its benefits for students you know, who are looking for sort of careers and future job opportunities. And along with that, we have our computer science courses, the pure sciences. Many of our Nobel Prizes have come from the pure sciences. We offer medicine, veterinary and dentistry, and we also have a very active life sciences faculty, which offers all your sort of virology, immunology, cancer biology, etc. So that's sort of very much a broad overview of the university. But what we also do is we provide, and this has obviously become more and more key, a really supportive and welcoming place for students at whatever level, whether they're foundation, undergraduate or postgraduate students when they arrive. And we really do offer outstanding services. So everything from the Bristol Student Union, which is obviously student-led, offers a huge amount of support for students literally from the moment they arrive in the UK. So things like airport pickups and welcomes, all the way through to arriving and then induction, orientation and settling in. And they work with those people. And of course, in light of the COVID pandemic, they are doing a huge amount of work to ensure that we are safely and reopening our study spaces and making sure that, you know, students' accommodation, the study areas are all sort of safe, and there is a real vibrant program. And we have a fantastic global lounge, which has only been open a couple of years, but this is a huge cultural hub that runs events all throughout the year that any students from any nationality can get involved in. And it means that international students don't arrive and don't feel isolated and don't feel that they are different. They're completely and utterly integrated into all the different workings of the university, which I think is just a really, really important part of being an international student. Of course, careers support, again, a significant amount of support. We are, as I said, one of the top and most targeted UK universities by the UK's top employers. There are always sort of careers fairs going on, and then the university, as well as part of its supportive offering, offers things like the Bristol Plus Awards, where you can get additional experience and opportunities, and then we have internships, the study placements that you can get through various different academic disciplines. And so that's sort of a broad overview of the university. So I think I would just sort of say the thing that separates us from many of our other competitors, there are of course many extremely highly ranked Russell Group style universities in the UK, but I think the thing that separates us is outstanding academics, but also combined with just a wonderful, friendly, supportive place to live, and a university that really cares about its student support. And so to finish off, I'll show you a few shots of Bristol. This big street, you can see this is Park Street, and this is actually a large hill. So if you're going up the screen, you'll be going down the hill. On the right, you can see Bristol Cathedral, and then on the right-hand side, this arched building is where the Mayor's office, the Mayor of Bristol. And this is sort of very much a hub of the university, a hub of the city. We have our beautiful harbour side. Bristol, for those of you that are interested, Bristol's the home of pirates. So Bristol has a very old traditional history. And in fact, even the way that pirates talk is an extenuation of the southwest accent in the UK. So if you're a local from Bristol, you talk a bit like this. And then if you're a pirate, you talk a bit like this. So Bristol is the home of pirates. Robinson Crusoe actually met Defoe in a pub in Bristol, told him his story, and that's how the book was written. Anyone who's read Treasure Island, the opening scenes of that are all from Bristol, and that's from another pub in Bristol. And things like the famous pirate Blackbeard, whose real name was Edward Teach, was from Bristol. So that is our sort of old history. And if you watch any kind of old sort of programs or films about that era, you'll always, and listen to any of the songs, they will always reference Bristol. And our harbour side today is still very flourishing, although it's in a slightly different guise. It has all these beautiful, colourful buildings. The campus is a real mix of old and new, so we have a lot of our old traditional historic buildings, but the university has invested millions in the last few years in making sure that we have a very modern offering. So we have a £55 million life sciences building there. The city is very famous for engineering, and this is the Clifton Suspension Bridge, which was built by one of the UK's most famous engineers, who was Isambard Kingdom Brunel, who actually built the railways, the SS Great Eastern, and he also built the SS Great Britain. So the first railways was was London to Bristol, and then you would go on that railway, and then you would get on the SS Great Britain, which would then take you to America, which was the first iron-made steamships across the Atlantic. But the city of Bristol, as I said, it's a very fun, exciting place to live, and it's also very quirky. We have a lot of very different things going on. So you'll see in a lot of our literature and a lot of our marketing balloons all the time, hot air balloons, and that is because we are the home of the International Hot Air Balloon Fiesta. So every August we have the International Hot Air Balloon Fiesta in the city, and it is absolutely fantastic. The whole sky is full of different hot air balloons. It's a huge event. People from all over the country come around to see it. It is still going ahead this year, thankfully. I think there won't be any of the major public gatherings, but they are still intending to put a lot of the balloons up and give people the opportunity to see them. And that's a really exciting thing that happens in the city. And then here's, just to sort of finish off, as a few more shots. This is basically the university. So we are a city university in that we are located in the heart of the city of Bristol, but we have that feel of a campus because everything is really within walking distance. The big tower you can see just slightly to the left of centre in your screen, that is the Wills Memorial Building, named after the Wills family, who originally gave the money to launch the university, and that is the home of our law school and our earth sciences school. And then all those buildings sort of just up above that and just around that, that's all University of Bristol buildings. So it's really green, very easy to walk around, and really, really sort of a nice place for students. A few final shots. So this is our Woodland Road and Priory Road, so it's arts and social sciences. in what were a lot of old villas which have been converted into new teaching spaces. Royal Fort Gardens for the students to walk around. The Richmond building, which is the home of the Student Union, which has its own pool. It's brand new sort of bar and social area for the students, and this slightly weird curvy 1960s staircase, which I believe is architecturally protected. And that's it from me. So as I said, it's gary.coulter@bristol.ac.uk, jenny.french@bristol.ac.uk if you've got any questions or you want to put anyone in touch with us. We'll obviously be available in the Q&A at the end, and I've probably gone over my time. I always do get a bit excited, but I'll pass over to my colleague Dave, and I'll just stop sharing my screen. Dave, over to you.
Thanks, Gary. I'll just start sharing my screen if I can find it. That one. Is that showing okay? Cool, I can see some nods, excellent stuff. So, really pleased to meet you. Obviously, I could be showing you my attic in rural Wiltshire, outside Bristol, but instead I'm gonna show you some corporate imagery, and hopefully you can see my slides as well. So my name's Dave Jarman. I'm the Programme Director for our one-year Master's Programme in Innovation and Entrepreneurship. I'm a Senior Lecturer in Entrepreneurship at the university. And what I'm going to try and do is just give you a short snippet of a bit of lecture content that hopefully you'll find interesting. Hopefully there'll be some takeaways that actually you can use and take back and make yourself this very afternoon even. And then we're also going to be sharing a bit of one of our student stories. So one of my current master's students, Amy, is joining us on the call, and she's going to share a little bit about her dissertation project that she's working on with me at the moment. So what I want to talk about this afternoon is two really important lessons that we think are integral to our program in innovation and entrepreneurship. And the first of these is around fast failure. Now, this is an expression that you may have heard before, but we're going to be talking a little bit about the lean startup and the idea of prototyping. But then I'm going to link that across to what might feel like a counterintuitive idea, but the idea of slow success. And we're going to talk about the difference between expensive, bad, and slow, and a little bit about passion and alignment. And hopefully this will set up the work that Amy's doing at the moment. So this idea of failing fast, it might seem, well, counterintuitive to try and be seeking to fail, and especially to try and do so rapidly. But I would suggest that if you're going to fail at all, you want to do it quickly, and you don't want to have slow failure. Slow failure is torturous and wastes an awful lot of time and energy. So in the words of Steve Blank, serial entrepreneur, an academic at both Berkeley and Stanford, no business plan survives first contact with a customer. So we have these amazing ideas, and whether these are business ideas or whether these are ideas that we have as staff working within an organization or ideas that we have in our personal lives, we often kind of just work on it in our heads, and actually kind of we somehow sort of polish it up to a fine finish in our heads, and then we show somebody and they go, no, that's not quite what I had in mind. And this is where that idea of failing fast comes in really important. That if you've been working by yourself, polishing this thing for weeks and months and years, that moment of failure is catastrophic. It is the Zeppelin going down in flames. If, however, actually you've been trying to do this as quick as you can and as cheaply as you can, then actually that failure is really just a moment for feedback. So it's worth pointing out right at the start, and this is one of the things that we tell all of our students, 9 out of 10 startups fail. So actually, the trick is to start a few things. And inevitably, the first thing you try and start may well fail. So do that quickly, do that cheaply, do that with as little risk and as little kind of self-harm as you can manage so that you can find the next thing. And the reason why most startups fail is, as the diagram in front of you kind of illustrates, is that nobody wanted it. We had this amazing idea, this brilliant technology, and we offer it to people and they go, no. Or can I have it in a different color? Or can I have it at half the price? Or actually, you know what? I've got this, this, and this, and I've kind of bodged them together, and that kind of does the job, and that will do me. So actually, getting out and talking to people, getting out and talking to your customers as soon as you can is really important. And that even if actually you're just showing them 2 different color schemes and the product doesn't exist yet, at least you've got some feedback that when you do go for the expensive kind of color scheme on the product, you know which color it ought to be. So we talk to our students about going and checking in with their customers as soon as it's humanly possible to do so. Now, a lot of this derives from the work of Eric Ries. Now, Eric was actually a student in Steve Blank's class, and he built on this with lots of ideas from lean manufacturing and kind of lean engineering. And it's just this idea of, rather than doing these big planning, big expensive planning stages before you show anybody anything, how do you do that really, really quickly? Just very small, very basic versions of a product that you can put into the hands of the customer, get some feedback on, and go and build the next one. Just rapid iterations. But rather than just sinking all your time into planning, test those assumptions that you've got as soon as you can. Engage the stakeholders. Some of them will become customers, some might become investors, some will be evangelical to other people about this emerging product. And getting hold of them early is basically kind of free marketing. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to fail, we're trying to embrace failure, but quickly, cheaply, and moving forwards, that we do it as a way of making progress. So one of the mantras that I constantly find myself sort of saying to students is, don't seek perfection, seek progress. You can wait a long time on perfection to come around, and it doesn't tend to happen. But you can very quickly make progress. So at the heart of Eric Ries's model is this idea of build, measure, learn. How do you build the lowest cost prototype capable of getting some meaningful feedback? How do you then put it into the hands of people so that you can kind of measure how they respond to it, and whether they like this or that? You know, do they seem to understand it and use it? Do they ask the right questions, or do they seem baffled and confused? And learn and build the next one, and keep doing this. Rapid iterations, rapid failures that all teach you something. And it's that learning that's really important here. So the goal of a lean startup is to inform the riskiest business assumptions. So one of the things, again, that we get our students to do is, often they will sort of say, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. And then they'll be like, I want to write a big marketing plan, and I want to do all these detailed kind of planning sketches. And when you say, have you spoken to anybody about it yet? They'll go, oh, no. I need to polish this up. I want to finish the marketing plan. I want to think about how I'm going to finance it. And we're like, no, you need to prove that anybody wants this thing. Because if you can prove that, then it's worth doing all those other things. But, and I'm guilty of this, we all quite like planning. Like sometimes it's easier to sit and work on a plan and polish it rather than to, you know, run hard at the hardest wall, which you kind of think you're going to fail. You know, we put that off. So the quicker we can get to that and test it, the better position we're in, because we haven't wasted our time and we haven't wasted anyone else's. So we talked about minimum viable products, and you may have heard that acronym before, an MVP, and it's really just what's the most basic version of something that you can build, that you can learn something from. And I'll give you a couple of examples in a moment, but it's build a simple thing, use it to get feedback, iterate, build the evidence that what you've got works, and gain some traction in the market, and it allows you to reduce risk and cut costs. And again, that might seem counterintuitive, that we're courting failure, and that by courting failure, we're reducing risk and cutting cost. But let me illustrate. So some of you may recognize the object on the left. I'm not going to ask you who, because you might be giving your age away. The Palm Pilot. Now, for those of you who don't recognize this, this is basically a kind of personal digital kind of organizer. It's got most of the functions of a modern smartphone without actually having the phone bit attached, like calendars, contacts, note-taking, etc. The white object on the right is the first prototype of the Palm Pilot, and it's a block of wood with a piece of paper around it. Now you might be thinking, how can you prototype an electronic object with a block of wood covered in paper? Well, let me explain. Partly, it's almost just proving that an object that size will fit into a pocket. You know, does it actually fit? Is it comfortable? Is it nice to hold? Is it ergonomic? But actually what the inventor also did was he sketched different kind of visualizations and menu functions and different numbers of buttons. He had this idea that he wanted every single function to be accessible within 3 taps. So how do you make sure that you can design all your menus to be accessible within 3 taps? And actually, you can do that on paper. You don't have to touch plastic, injection molded plastics. You don't have to touch microelectronics. Actually, you can learn a hell of a lot about what you're trying to build with a piece of wood and a piece of paper. And we call that is one form of prototyping. So he was able to learn a lot before investing in injection molded plastics. Now, some of you might be familiar with Zappos, online shoe store. Now, when this was first imagined, nobody bought shoes online. If you'd have asked anybody, they'd have said, no, I go into a shoe shop. I have to try them on. Like, shoes are something that you try on. Well, the entrepreneur here thought differently. Now, to start this business, what you could have done is you could have bought a warehouse. You could have bought all the stock to fill it. You could have sunk a ton of money into web development and a sales team. But actually, no one had yet proven that this would even work. So actually what the founder did was he created a really super basic website himself. He went to the local shoe stores and he took photographs of their shoes, and he took a note of the price, and he put them all on his website. And then when people found his website, and he did some kind of Facebook and social media advertising, when people found his website, they would buy a pair of shoes. He would notice, he would run down to the shoe store, he would buy those shoes, and he would put them in the post. Now, that is no way to run a major logistics business. But it was really cheap to do, and it allowed him to prove that people were willing to buy shoes online. And that was the bit that allowed him to go and get investment to buy the warehouse, the sales team, the customer service team, and all the stock. So a really simple prototype that allows you to prove. Now, there's lots of different ways that you can prototype, and I put some of the kind of more technical things up here, but actually the thing that I'd often say is a prototype is saying something out loud and letting someone else respond, or letting you go, hang on, that doesn't make sense. It made sense in my head, but the moment I tried to make it audible, it made no sense at all. You've just prototyped an idea. You've prototyped a thought. Write it down, draw a sketch, share it with somebody else, see how they respond. These are really simple prototypes. Our students get quite hung up on the idea that prototypes have to be this sort of technical, built in our prototyping lab piece at the end of the program. We're like, no. In the first minute of the first class, you could show me a sketch on the back of an envelope, and that is a prototype. And we encourage our students to do just that. So just moving on from there, this idea of succeeding slowly. So the process of innovation is not linear. It's you go backwards as often as you go forwards. It's a complex knot. You will fail, you'll have to go back, you'll move forward again. And you're trying to do two things. At the start of the process, you're trying to make the right thing. Like, what is it that people actually want? And only after you've proven that you are making the right thing, do you actually make the thing right. So before you start sinking all of your time and energy into this kind of high finish, actually check you're doing the right thing first. Check you're doing the thing that actually people want to buy. So another way of just visualizing that, this is the work of Alex Bruton, but he talks about this idea of it's not just a linear process from hunch to an idea to a business model to a business plan. Actually, you're going to have a lot of hunches, and only some of them will become ideas, only some of them will become models, only some of them will become a plan, and only some of them will launch. He actually worked out that for one successful product launch, you'd probably have two product launches, one of which would fail, and 3,000 hunches to start that process. So it's really about working through that as quickly as you can. So by failing fast, you're making continuous progress. You're actually succeeding slowly. And this idea of overnight kind of eureka success is actually a really dangerous myth. I think it persuades people that they can do things that just don't actually happen, that real success comes through kind of standing on the shoulders of giants and a lot of hard work. So, excuse the diagram, it's hand-drawn by me. This represents all projects ever. Now, whenever you're launching any kind of project, you're trying to make it probably good, fast, and cheap. However, you're only allowed 2 of those things. That if you're trying to do good and fast, it's almost certainly going to be expensive. If you're trying to do fast and cheap, it's almost certainly going to be bad. So what we tend to work with our students towards is this idea of how do you do good and cheap, because, you know, our students aren't necessarily resource rich. So it inevitably has to be slow. So this idea of working slowly on something to make it both good and affordable given the resources. So if a project is going to be slow, that's going to take time. You're going to have to care about that. You're going to have to get up every day and still want to do it, even when it's making really slow progress. So how do we persuade our students to do things that they actually care about? Because every time I've been told a get rich quick scheme, and I've pointed out that it's probably neither quick nor rich, but it might still work, a lot of students just put it down. I like the students who are still interested in their idea when it is neither quick nor rich, but it actually has a chance of working. So this idea of actually passion is really important. So I talked to the work of David Hyatt and his book Do Purpose, and how do you find something at the intersection of the things that you love, the things that you're good at, and the things that other people seem to want right now. A version of that I worked on from my own research was this idea of kind of having personal passion, having something that you were professionally at least halfway competent at, and having something that you wanted to do more of tomorrow. That made the basis of a good side project. And that led to some work that I did around founder alignment. So with any given founder, how do you make sure that you've got all the right kind of ambition and it aligns with what you're working on? You know, are you trying to start a unicorn that's actually probably a one-person lifestyle business? How do your values align with the work that you're trying to do? How do your own skills and know-how align with the work you're trying to do? Are you going to need to bring more people in? Do you have the resources? Or again, are you going to need investment of some kind? But these are all really important ideas that we share with our students. And hopefully that even cultivates the idea of an unfair advantage, that they don't just have kind of technical skills, but they've got kind of domain expertise, and they can find that edge that makes them better than all those people who experienced something just once and tried to start a business on it. So I've done more of this work on side projects. If anyone's particularly interested, I did a TED talk about it, and about the value of kind of trying to change the world on a part-time basis. So I'm going to finish off with 3 questions that I think lie at the heart of our program and the reason why we're a little bit different to a lot of places that teach similar stuff. How do you actually enable students to succeed, to learn, even actually as their individual ideas might fall by the wayside? How do we encourage students to bring their passion to their projects? Because they're going to need that to make it through. We're not just about get rich quick, because it almost certainly isn't true. And then how do we handle students when their passion projects fail? And I think this goes to some of the points that Gary made about the supportive environment that we have here at Bristol. Like, we really try and look after our students so that they can bring their passion into the classroom, they can fail, and they can still move forward, and they can still really gain out of that process. And on that note, I am going to hand over to Amy to present. That's my contact details. But Amy is one of our master students at the moment, so if I can ask her just to unmute and join in, and I will try and keep the slides moving as we go.
Okay. Hello, so I'm Amy, as Dave said. So I'm here to talk to you about a project I've been working on and the basis around my dissertation then. So it's called Osista. It started in lockdown, where boredom kind of got the best of me and my sister, and we decided to take on the current summer trend of tie-dye. And so we've made 5 tops in one color, but after making them, we kind of realized you don't need 5 tie-dye tops of one color. So we decided to put one on Depop. And from that, we realized after one day not even think about it, someone bought it. And then we got greedy, so then we put the other 2 up, and so on and so on. So firstly, you might be asking yourself, what is Depop? So Depop is a peer-to-peer social selling app. It reflects mostly like Instagram, so people like other people's items, you hashtag, and it kind of has a very similar layout, as you can see. There's 15 million users, 147 countries. But you can see here, this is my shop. So we've sold over 500 items. We have 330 all 5-star reviews, and we sell a mixture of crop tops, sweatshirts, and bags. Next. So I found over the last couple of months, we're starting to build a little community of buyers. And you can see here these are examples of some of our reviews that we have 11.8% of a return buyer rate, which it shocks me. Like, how many tie-dye tops do you need, or tie-dye items? But as you can see, someone said they've come back for a 3rd time. And I feel like a lot of our success has been really understanding what do people want, what's the customer want, and what real value we're creating. And I found that we were doing this through experimentation. So Next, please, Dave. So as you can see here, these are some small examples. So if you're through testing different things and testing new ways out, you can see what people want and what we don't, and you can do it, as you say, quite quickly. Some fail, some succeed. As you can see, the stuff that I thought were going to work didn't. So we started off here, we bought 4 tops in a t-shirt shape, and it took 2 weeks to sell one, where we sell the vests so much more quickly. So we decided, no, scrap that idea. We then decided to make sweatshirts, which people love and they sell out so quickly. But we also tested whether styling influenced purchasing. And we kind of found that it wasn't important on the shop, but it was even more important on our social media. The more that we kind of style things on our social media, kind of encourages or pushes customers to post their tops up and how they style it, and then it encourages other people to see and buy off us. Another fail was we changed up our photography, which is we tried these flat lay photographs. I thought they were cool, I thought they'd work, but actually in this week we had a drop of 43% in our sales, so people didn't like them, which is good to know. And we've come here, we've kind of developed kind of what we're doing. We've tried out different tie-dye techniques, and we've now more moved into dyed tops and these asymmetrical tops, which people love, and we're actually selling more of these tops than our first tops, which has now made us start to question of like, what else can we do? Can we rework clothes or kind of change things up? So just on to the last one, please, Dave. So this is just talking about what Dave said, which is this lean methodology of designing, building, and measuring, that if we weren't testing things out or having experimentation and failing quite fast, we wouldn't know what people wanted. So through making small prototypes, we have that minimal viable product, and we can take the risk, either it works or it doesn't, but it also isn't a major failure. It doesn't mean we can't sell anymore and we've risked everything, but also most importantly is you learn from your customer. We can learn what people want, we can ask them questions, and this is basically measured through the sales, our feedback, and our requests. And I found that through testing little things, you're doing small changes. It doesn't mean that one day we're a completely different shop. It means like over weeks and weeks we can test and try things, and it isn't overnight. We sold 5 tops in 1 week and 85 tops in another. It isn't a crazy success. It's not a unicorn, but like to me, it's a crazy success that someone in Barcelona or in America is wearing a top that I made here in Ireland that I've posted out. That, you know, it's crazy just to think that somebody's doing it and that we're progressing and we're able to do it. So that's it. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Amy. And just to stress really that this is actually a project that Amy gets to do as part of her master's dissertation project with us. So actually, rather than writing a traditional kind of 10,000 word dissertation, actually we ask our students to come up with a venture that creates value. And that can take almost any form. We've had everything from kind of language policy in the Basque region to new shopping malls in South India. We've got people looking at technology for helping aging populations in China, through to Depop shops in Northern Ireland. Like, it's a huge range of stuff. And actually, I think our students really relish the autonomy that we give them to work on these different projects. I will stop sharing my screen, and I am going to stop there. If there's any kind of questions or queries about either kind of Bristol more generally, that, you know, maybe Gary and Jenny can talk to, or our program in particular, or the advice that I've tried to share about failing fast and succeeding slowly, that Amy and I can talk to.
Can I ask a quick question? I'm afraid I'm not very with it. What is tie-dye?
Gary.
I'm not very trendy, I'm afraid. In fact, my fiance basically has to approve most of my clothes purchases. So, if you could tell me what
tie-dye actually had its heyday in the 60s and early 70s. So
really?
I'm old enough to know that. And we spent many high school hours creating. You take dye and you use rubber bands and you create patterns on fabric, and then you can multicolors, one color. Am I correct, Amy?
Yes, exactly. You can get creative with it, but everyone's different, so you just can scrunch them in different ways or fold them in different ways, and it turns into quite a funky top. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thanks. And now I know. Now I feel a bit more in tune now.
So any other questions for Gary or Dave or Amy with regard to programs and or the student experience? So I have one question here. For the Marshall, could a student do a science research master's at Bristol first year and then do the innovation master's second year?
That's a question for me. Yes, you could.
Okay.
It's actually one thing that's worth pointing out is that actually the students who come and do both our undergraduate innovation programs and of which there are 14 different variations that you can do with innovation. Actually, the cohort that we take in for our one-year taught masters is really, really varied. We've had, well, even this year, we've got kind of advertising and marketing students, we've got chemists, we've got engineers, we've got environmental engineering, a whole range. We talk about ourselves as being a kind of a conversion course into innovation and entrepreneurship from a student from almost any background.
There's a question about what is the typical background of an MSc Innovation and Entrepreneurship student as well?
I don't know that we have one. So far, our students have been drawn from all over the world. We've certainly recruited from everywhere from Latin America to China and beyond. I think we've represented every continent so far in our kind of 3 years of existence. And as I said, a huge range of backgrounds and huge range of ages as well, actually. This year, usually about a third of our cohort are straight out of undergraduate, about a third are 1 to 2 years out, and about a third of them are sort of 5 to 6 years out and are kind of doing this as a sort of bit of a kind of career change.
There's a few questions I'm happy to answer. Sorry if I'm sort of butting in here.
No, go ahead, Gary.
So, yeah, there's a question about cost of living in Bristol and housing options. And then there's a question of the same thing for Amy directly. So maybe I can take the first half from the official point of view, and then Amy can give the student perspective. So, well, it's a question about financial aid as well. So many of our students will come with FAFSA federal loans. They can use the loan, but not the grant. There are some scholarships available at the university that are called Think Big that students can apply for. And obviously there's, Marshall funding and there's Fulbright funds and all the things that students will come with. Our Think Big scholarships are open for anybody from any country at both undergraduate and postgraduate level. There's 2 rounds and they range from anything from around £20,000 through to about £5,000 discounts off a year's tuition. People often ask us about price, how much is it going to cost me? What I usually say to people is you're looking at around 40 to 45,000 US dollars per year for everything. So that would be tuition, room, board, entertainment, food, the lot, like everything, 40, 45,000 per year. And obviously if you're doing a 1-year master's, it's obviously just a 1-year cost. That's a general rule of thumb. Living costs in Bristol. So obviously London is as the capital and obviously as the major city is the priciest city in the UK. Bristol is still a little bit expensive, not nowhere near as expensive as London, but it's still expensive because of it's such a desirable place to live. So around £10,000 a year approximately would cover all living costs. So accommodation, that's not including tuition, obviously, but all living costs, sort of accommodation, food, entertainment, obviously depending on your lifestyle. But around 10 to save maybe £12,000 a year, obviously depending on what kind of lifestyle you personally have, but a sort of standard sensible student budget 10 to 12. And then Amy, did you want to sort of maybe take some of the thing about student life in Bristol and affordability, housing, etc.?
Affordability, I think rent and housing is slightly more expensive, but it's not as expensive as London. Like I did my undergraduate in Manchester and it is slightly bit more, but actually living there as a student, like food shopping and going out is the same. And like I didn't really struggle with it as much like that. Student life, I love Bristol. I thought it was like a lovely tempo city. It's got the hustle and bustle, but also it's quite quiet at the same time. I think because it is a campus, so I walked from my house to the innovation thing in 15 minutes, 2 minutes to the library, 2 minutes to somewhere else. It is hilly, and you get your exercise in, but it's worth it. The nightlife's good. I enjoyed that in Bristol as well, that you're very close to Bath. You're 2 3 hours to London, and you're kind of close to everywhere around that. I did a lot of things in the student union itself. There's an art course, 8 by 8 weeks. So for each week, for 8 weeks, you did a different thing. So I went and met loads of other people, and we did like printing and painting and things. And yeah, I quite liked it. It was quite a nice little tempo. It was chill. It was enough busyness, but also quiet at the same time. It was nice.
Great. Sorry, Dave. I beg your pardon. Sorry, Jenny. Fire away.
I was just going to say, you save money because you don't need to use public transport or get taxis and things like that, because you really can just walk around most of the city.
Yeah, I did most of my time was walking everywhere, because there was no point of getting on a bus. Spent more time waiting for a bus than getting for it. Like to walk around is 15-20 minutes, walk to uni is 15-10. So you get your exercise. It's good. Yeah.
I just want to follow up on a question for Dave. Do the students get mentors from their local business community as they work on their projects?
So we work really closely with, Bristol's got a fantastic startup ecosystem. In fact, it's rated the second best startup ecosystem in the UK after London. We've just won the European Incubator of the Year award, and the Set Squared Incubator at the University of Bristol has been voted the world's best university-run business incubator for about the last 8 years in a row. So we've got a fantastic community that we draw on really heavily. So some of those people come in as kind of guest speakers and experts. Some of them do come in and support individual student projects. Actually, all of our postgraduate students do a client-led brief as part of their kind of spring term project. So we have real clients bringing kind of real work in for the students to work on. We also connect them a lot of our kind of personal networks. So we have kind of LinkedIn groups for our students and for our alumni and for a lot of the people that we work with kind of beyond that as well. So yeah, Bristol's got a great startup ecosystem. We're really well connected to it. And actually, it's also worth pointing out that a lot of the staff in the centre are actually only part-time academics, because they're all still functioning professionals, either kind of running design studios. We've got kind of serial entrepreneurs who are still CEOs of SMEs, who actually kind of teach in the centre as well, and lots of people who give kind of professional advice and mentoring down the years, right through. So everyone from fine artists to mergers and acquisition specialists on the team at the centre. We're as interdisciplinary as our students are.
Great. I see Mary included a link to postgraduate housing on campus here in the chat. But there is a question, Gary, this may be for you or Jenny. How about students with disabilities in terms of getting around? Because Bristol, as everyone's noted, is quite hilly, and I have fond memories of those hills.
Yeah. I've just popped a quick response on there. I would say, I mean, I used to work in the politics department, and I know that one of our students was a quadriplegic student. So we do have students with different mobility options. I would say that all of the buses, they're able to kind of lower the ground, and so people in wheelchairs can go onto the buses as well as the trains. And we've got a university bus that does go right onto campus, so very close to where your buildings would be. And we do have a disability support centre who we'd be able to link students up with to make sure that we can kind of cater for their whatever's going on. I must say that it's important to kind of let us know as soon as possible what requirements a student has, because there are certain things that we may not be able to get around. For example, not all buildings will have like the hearing induction loops, things like that. And so just to make sure that we're aware, we would put you in touch with our disability services as soon as possible.
Okay, I think that's it for questions. And anyone have any final comments?
One of the cool things that's just come out in Bristol that they've announced, it's a bit hush-hush at the moment, is that because of what's happening, not many big events, but Bristol is the city that usually has the most in Europe, apparently. So we're really feeling this lockdown. And they've said that they're looking at doing some sort of music concert from the skies. So big named bands are potentially going to be up in the dunes and streaming their music from the sky. Pretty exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly, that is so Bristol.
I was going to say, yeah, that's
Bristol is the city that had that water slide all the way down its main street after all.
Yeah. We like to have fun.
I'm just sad I never made it there. Oh, I think there's another question.
Yeah, for Amy, it looks like there's a question here for Amy. Amy, what's your advice for students new to Bristol? How to get involved and engaged?
Advice, yeah, I went and I didn't know anyone. So luckily the centre in my course, we were all very engaging with each other. It was only 15 of us. We all got to know each other quite well. And the people who I lived with, I didn't know as well. So luckily, I find that you have to just be sociable, put yourself out there, talk to as many people as you can. Luckily, I can talk to anything and anyone. Probably people are like, talks too much. But also go to events. I think go to the Welcome Week events, go meet new people, and then you can make connections and kind of get, the first couple of weeks are always a little bit confusing and you're trying to get your feet, but I found that the more engaged, more involved I was with uni, the kind of more settled I felt. So yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Sorry, we've got an organisation called the Global Lounge, which has a real kind of focus on bringing together our international students as well as our home students and just celebrating lots of different cultures, and yeah, really having all the events. So for example, we always have a Thanksgiving event in November, but we also have Chinese New Year, all those sorts of things. And earlier in the year I went to a night of Indian dancing, for example, which was incredible, and they were two of our students who were actually professional dancers from India, and they kind of just gave us an introduction into their different kind of styles and things like that. But we have loads and loads of events that are hosted through the Global Lounge, and even now during lockdown they've still got a timetable of activities for our pre-sessional students to stay involved and to make new connections and things. So I would definitely encourage people to look into the Global Lounge, but as soon as you arrive we will be kind of giving you that information and encouraging you to take part. One of the big things that they do is a language cafe, so it's an opportunity to kind of practice languages that you might want to kind of improve upon. That's something that's popular, and again we even did that remotely at the start of lockdown while we were still in term.
Yeah, and in terms of the question about food, yeah, Bristol is a huge foodie city. It is literally full of like different restaurants and many independent restaurants as well. There are obviously a few chains like there are in every city, but Bristol is absolutely full of independent shops and independent restaurants. It's got many different sort of supermarkets from all over the world as well, so you can actually buy a lot of produce that you wouldn't be able to get in many other cities. But it's a huge foodie city, and it's also very big with drinks as well. So for those of you that are interested in
microbreweries,
yeah, that's right. And cider is so as you guys would say on across the pond, you guys would call it hard cider. Well, cider is sort of is the most popular drink in Bristol over beer, and that's because many of the orchards are in this part of the country, and you can go and you can sample many different sort of types of cider, and there's cider boats that you can go on that are literally bars, or there are boats in the sea, in the canal, sorry. And there are
the university used to have a cider research station. So, I should point out that they were more involved in the sort of the development of the different apple crops, what have you. But the Long Ashton Research Station for many years grew and developed an awful lot of cider apples. So if you've drunk any cider in the UK ever, you've probably drunk the fruits of University of Bristol research.
And of course, amazing. Luann and I can vouch for the flights of cider that Gary took you the last study
tour.
Yeah. Come to Bristol, we'll get you a far light of cider, no problem.
Okay. Well, I think we're at the end. We're a little bit over one, which is fine. But people are making all kinds of comments about memories of Bristol and food. So yes, you are strong in our memory from NAFA tours in the past.
Well, just one final thing from me then. Yeah, I'd just like to say, obviously, we're really sorry that we couldn't host. We usually host college counsellors every year in Bristol, and we love hosting and entertaining people. Obviously, we couldn't host the NAFA tour this year, which obviously hugely disappointing. But I'm glad that we could have this event. And if anybody wants to come and visit Bristol, just let us know. We're very hospitable. Just give us a shout, and once we can all start travelling again. We'd love to have as many of you come and visit us as possible. So please just feel free to send us an email.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Dave, Amy, Jenny. And we do look forward to coming to Bristol again
Yay.
as soon as we can. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you everybody. That was really great and really interesting. And of course, I can go to Bristol anytime I want. So.
We're not jealous about that. We're not.
Anyway,
All
thank
right.
you everybody for joining us again. Don't forget, we have another one next week. We keep going. We're running the whole way through the summer, and I think we've really learned a lot so far. Hopefully we'll come back and visit Bristol when we're all allowed to travel again on the study tour. And thank you all of you, and including Amy. Good luck with the tie-dye business. Maybe Gary needs one because he doesn't know what it is, so maybe you could like send him some images.
I've already placed my order.
Anyway, thank you very much. Thank you for coming, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.